Hey, good morning, and thanks for joining us for this Victory Over Violence special here on KRK.com and Fox16.com, as well as our Facebook pages. I'm Ashley King, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host now, Mr. Robert Holt. And Robert, before we get started, I know you got something you want to say, right?
You know, I just want to say to my incredibly beautiful wife, happy anniversary. 37 years she's put up with me. Ashley, can you believe that? I know you know me a little bit. You know, it's
I
like,
can't.
really?
I
Yeah,
can't
I
believe
know.
it at all. She's a
It's hard
special
to believe.
woman to be able to tolerate you for that long.
Yeah, superwoman is what I call her. You know, I call her beauty and I call me beast, you know. And of course she said, you know, Robert, maybe that's what you and Ashley need to call the show is Beauty and the Beast.
Maybe, right? We still need to set a poll out there so we can come up with a name for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
right. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So this week has been a challenging week. It started out, on Saturday with the news of a 10-year-old girl getting shot at a park in Little Rock, and Jayla Hughes is her name. She was there with her family, people got in a fight, and gunshots started, and she ended up getting shot and ended up dying. So.
Yeah, you know, again, our prayers go out to the Hughes family, and then of course we just had a shooting last night of another female, unfortunately, that was dropped off at the hospital. I mean, this is all the shootings that took place in Atlanta. 8 people murdered there last night. It's just on and on and on, and it's just we got to do something about this.
And actually, this video we're showing right now is video from pretty much the last 4 shootings that have happened here in the Little Rock area. So, we had one at the Chuck E. Cheese last week, and
Right.
then there was one at the Embassy Suites parking lot hotel the same night as the 10-year-old girl was shot. So
Right.
here we
Right.
are again, and we want to try to find solutions. That's the whole point of the show, is to try to find solutions to this.
Right. You know, and finding solutions is one of those things where it's right at the end of our nose, or it's right in the mirror. Every morning we get up and look in the mirror, there's a solution right there. So that if we can get people to begin understanding, if you'll just take a moment, even if it's just as simple as picking up a phone, calling your neighbor next door and saying, hey, I just calling to check on you, let you know, hey, have a great day. Those kinds of things becoming neighborhoods again, instead of these prisons that we're creating in our own neighborhoods.
That's so true.
We just got to become neighbors again.
Yeah, and we know, we're not naive to this. Clearly, this is something that's been going on for a long time. We know there's not, an overnight solution. There's not a one thing fixes all type solution. But like you said, and like you've always said, love is something that can, help us try to come up with a solution.
Yeah, and Ashley, that's the thing is that, you and I have talked about this many times, but I've had so many people say, Robert, it is not that easy. It's just not that easy to love. Or it's not that, love is not the solution, so to speak. But in reality, that is the ultimate solution is love. But love comes in many forms. We're going to meet a young man today that love from people that he's known in his life has helped him to navigate life and to help him become the man he is today. And he understands what love is all about.
Yep.
So that's it is one of the greatest solutions we have.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so you mentioned what we're going to be doing in just a second. So real quick, I just want to remind everybody, if you're just now joining us on Fox16.com, KRK.com, or on our social media pages, feel free to go on and leave some comments and let us know, like, if you have any questions that you want to ask throughout this program, and we'll go back to some of those comments and share some of those questions that you guys have coming up a little later. But I do want to go ahead and bring in our guest now, Mr. Lonnie Beulah. Did I say your last name right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ms. Ashley.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. So for people who don't know, I kind of want to give a little background. So you have a story of redemption, as Robert likes to call it. I love that he likes to call it that. And so for people who don't know, you were convicted of murder when you were 15 years old, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, and you spent 19 years in prison?
19 years.
Wow. Okay, so I kind of want to first ask you, can you take us back, I guess? What would you like to share about what happened when you were 15?
I guess if I had to start any place in time, I mean, it probably was the high point of me being a byproduct, maybe, of a society. I was a part of. Not to excuse any of my decisions or the just basically the participation that I played in the role. My brothers and I, two other brothers and I, my mother had 5 children, so she basically lost, over 2/3 of her family at the time, of the boys she was raising. So I guess if I had to start at a point that was pivotal, it was pivotal that all my actions just kind of led up to that moment that would just, the forces would be taken away from me. We were involved in, like, it was, I guess, a participation in a murder for hire. Things went wrong, and due to outside forces of us trying to, make money, just do stuff to live, basically. We were just, I guess, just led away by bad decisions, bad choices at the time. So
yeah.
it's just hard to, I guess, to be brief. I can make the story long, but just to be brief about it.
Yeah, I understand that. And so can you kind of, because a lot of the times, like with some of these cases, we're seeing teenagers committing some of these crimes. So when you were 15, can you kind of just take us through what goes through a mind of a 15-year-old? You're still a kid at 15. So what goes through the mind of a 15-year-old?
Absolutely. I guess it's like the old Chinese proverb, that most teenagers, toddlers, or whatever, we're like wet semen at that time. Every passerby leaves some type of imprint, and then it takes on your life to whether it's good or bad. So sometimes I can't even think of what I was thinking at 15, but I know most of the thought process now I had was developed for me by somebody else with my own experiences. So a lot of what was poured into me, it was like I said, a byproduct of the neighborhoods. I thought gangs, understood gangs, and I had good people, pretty much raising me. So I would go home and, all the good influence I had, I would go right back to the house, and all the bad influence from the neighborhoods would pour back in me. So if anything else, it was a conflicting time of my life where I couldn't establish who I really was as an identity.
And Robert,
Lonnie, if you would take us to that place of those that were working with you and your brothers to love you, to get you moving forward, to give you hope and those kinds of things. Because I know you now, and I knew you then, but I also know the Lonnie Beulah that even though that there were some unfortunate circumstances that have been taking place in your life, there's also been a great amount of love that has taken place in your life also. And, and you've grown up to be, that godly man that is giving of his family and giving of others and so forth. But take us back to those positive influences that you had and that struggle that you had with the positive and the negative.
Well, absolutely. I think it started, we had a guy that was participating pretty much. His name is Ray Clark, in a Big Brother and Big Sister program. This was mid-90s maybe. And my family, we were in some pretty deep poverty. We were set up to participate in like a donation thing for Christmas. Missed out on Christmas, they run out of gifts. He stepped in, and it was actually the start of, me seeing the transaction to true love. Because it's not that my mother and my family, didn't love, but, at the time we lacked resources to kind of help extend that love to get us out of certain places. So he introduced us to Greg Morris at the Boys Club. And Greg Morris, I always called him my Martin Luther King, but he definitely, it was he planted a lot of seeds in my brothers in our life. I think it held me over for 19 years because he never gave up. He never judged me, And when I was going through the transitions of all the court system, I basically he was my steady, the rock was when I felt overly guilty. He would just tell me, look, bud, people make mistakes. Yours just so happened to be a big mistake. It's not the end. And from him, Missy Morris, and all her family, over time, from what I knew from gangs and understanding gang love, or as opposed to love that promoted healing, that promoted success, the biggest tug of war, I could always go to the Boys Club, always go to Greg, and for whatever family, whatever he tied us into, and we can basically, it was a steady point. I didn't know at the time the guy would use it for 19 years, of my life to kind of keep me, just not that I'm the model of success for a lot out there, because obviously there's it's a wide region of things that goes on wrong, but it actually helped a lot for me to have somebody in my corner that wasn't as judgmental as society tends to be.
I know Robert and I talk a lot about mentoring and the power of mentoring, and you kind of just touched on it right there. So when you were, you said you had this tug of war. So after you did end up in prison, what was that like? Were you able to kind of change your mindset while you were in there?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, even at the time, I never took losing. I don't take too kindly to losing that good, so I was a sore loser. I realized that I was pretty much in the place. It didn't take me long to realize I was in a place that was going to determine when I could eat, the times I could, sleep and wake up. So, at first it felt like a point. I just always said I was a caged lion. I had all these energies, and I actually had all these ideas. At one point, I can remember I never knew or never accepted or understood a dream. I didn't plan on being a doctor, a lawyer. It was pretty much sports, or maybe a rapper, the prototype that's given to us. So I don't know. I really, if I look back, I could just think, and my first time in prison, when I go back, it was like, man, this can't be over, but it pretty much is over. And it's not to highlight, which I did exceptionally well through my prison time. I learned to adapt, follow the rules and stuff like that. But even then, I wanted to kind of buck the nature, because it's all I knew was to buck rules. Yeah. That's what I understood, because I felt that as a man, it defied what I thought was a man. So
that's interesting. And so when we talked earlier this week, you mentioned that it took you kind of 10 years to realize, like, you got to make a change.
Oh yeah. And I'm not even sure if the 10 years is just enough to suffice it to say, but I believe that in year 2 they could have let me out and I would have started to make a change. But who knows what kind of man I would have developed into, as far as maturity and my roots actually going deep down into who I really was. So I mean, it took the process of time, maybe 10 years or so. And that was just for me to become established as a new person and a new identity, for them to say, okay, this is Lonnie Beulah. Outside of a case number, we know who he is, what type of work ethic he has, and, just basic intrinsic qualities and things that kind of started to make my new image, my new identity.
I want to take you back for a minute of something you said earlier. You talked about the difference in love. You talked about the difference in love of gangs, and then the love that you found, that there was hope, there was God, there was peace, there was all these things that you found that love. I tell a lot of the young men and women who are part of the gangs, all the time, I said, if you go to prison, here's what's going to happen. None, hardly any of those you're associated with or affiliated with as far as your gang are going to come visit you. The ones that are going to come visit you are the ones that love you and care for you and want to see you succeed no matter what has happened in your life. And then the other hand is that the gangs, we talk about gangs like, Crips, Bloods, and so forth, but really 2 of our largest gangs in our country, and I'm going to go here, are red and blue, but they're Democrats, Republicans. I'm going to vote Democrat no matter who it hurts. I'm going to vote Republican no matter who it hurts. How can I expect our children to change when we as adults can't change? So to say that, how can you share with us about that type of love, that 1 was a gang love and 2 was a love that we know Greg and Missy and several others, in your life gave you? How do you differentiate that?
Well, I actually, unfortunately, sometimes it does take experience to differentiate it, because when I look back when I was young, I could not tell you the definition of love. My 4-year-old, if I discipline him now, he tells me all the time I don't love him. And I know I lay down my life for him. So and I guess to the degree I guess to put it in perspective, I would just say that one love was lasting. It never went away. It asked nothing of any monetary value or anything out of me. With Greg, it was like I said, he was pretty much, I look back and realize what he would sacrifice, how he was in cities that wasn't even acceptable to my culture at the time. And, he would defend us if somebody said something out loud, so here a different race defending 3 or 4 black kids, from Little Rock, who were ready to fight at the drop of a hat. But he beat us to the punches, pretty much. So it was a different type of love, as opposed to the love of, yeah, he would beat us to the punches. The love of just the neighborhood love, and it's not to put. I guess I didn't realize at the time the dogma of I guess of gangs, and I understood. I had people that I'm pretty sure that would probably at the time we called it ride or die, that would do things beside me that I could count on. But it's an immature love at the time, So, and I guess from without having any direction, that love from Greg and Missing them gave me direction. As far as, I understood, like it was an intrinsic value. It took time for me for one to accept. I think I could acknowledge it, but I couldn't accept it at one time because I would have to go back into the neighborhoods, and it was just, that was my identity. My nickname was Lunatic, and my identity was held in the definition of my name. So it was almost unacceptable to me to, just to kind of openly live that type of love if I couldn't pass it on to my family type stuff. So I had that hard image I had to keep.
So if there are other teens out here watching this right now and they feel that way too, I got to keep this image up. I got to live by my nickname. I got to, I can't let the people on the street down. What advice would you have for them?
I wouldn't want to be small with words. I just, sometimes you can't wait till it's too late. I always said that sometimes I think I'm a great candidate, if not good, because I know the prayers of the mothers in the neighborhood. I remember my friend's mother praying and saying, the most valuable prayer was can you just help them get away? Take my baby out the hood, the ghettos as we call them, or don't let them be this happened to them. So the advice that I could honestly give is, a lot of times you're not alone when you think you are. And sometimes, really most of the times, being a better man and a bigger man is to step away from it. I mean, because I went through prison with zero to minimum gang interactions. It wasn't because I was afraid, it's because I had a lone wolf, mentality. So, and I think to adopt that, you just have to realize that life is very short, whether you realize it now or not, and tomorrow could be the last time. Whether you make that decision, prison won't be like you think it is, and it really won't be what you plan for. No one can prepare you for it but you. And in the end, you'll have yourself, and like Mr. Holt said, Mr. Robert, is that you'll have the ones that really love you. So it's a lot of times, just don't wait till it's too late.
Right now, those that are watching us, you're watching us. Hopefully, they're on Facebook as well. And if you have questions for Lonnie, please send us a question right now that Miss Ashley can read to us, and that we might be able to answer. And also, I know that Lonnie's kids are going to be getting up pretty soon, so he's been kind of going, "Oh, my kids might come in," but I want everybody to know that his kids might come in there, and that's okay because we're live. But
they're coming.
Yeah. So if you are, so you're in prison. Okay. So here you are in prison. You're almost at that place where you know that you're about to get out. What are you thinking?
Because of the preparation, I guess I failed. I kind of overlooked the time that a few years back, I used to, when I first got in, I settled into the point after I got past my initial, oh man, what have I done? I kind of settled in and say, hey, you're here. Make the best out of it, because my mentality was I hated to lose. So I learned the rules and instructions and stuff, and went with the flow of the system pretty much. So I would say that I started preparing to get out, like day 2 for me, from a spiritual level. It may have took a year, but maybe it just, I guess for hypotheticals, just say 18 years ago, I was preparing literally for the moment I got out. But I also was prepared, the doubt crept in, and I was thinking, man, I'm going to have like 6 or 7 year denials and stuff for the, gruesomeness of crime or things of that nature. So I never really let it discourage me again. That came from the support system of my wife and friends. And I mean, just I didn't quit. So I literally prepared, and I could see myself and envision when I hit the ground, I had to go. So when my kids came along, the incentive to do it was fairly easy. The sacrifice was easy. It was easy for me to say, well, I got to get up and go to work every day, even when I don't feel like it, at times like that, or start some type of financial wealth or financial education for them to pass along to kind of break the generational curses, that I've been unfortunate to be a part of at times. So before they let me out, I was out. In my mind, I experienced true freedom already. So I understood what to do with the possibilities when I got it. There was some setbacks, and there was still some anxiety of, if I can make it, because sometimes I tend to overthink, but I was just, I was ready. I prepared.
Yeah, and speaking of, you mentioned, you know, you had to work when you got out. What do you do now, work-wise, and was it difficult to find an opportunity to get a job? Because I know, you know, when you have that record, they always run the background checks, and then that's, you know, a red flag right there, and jobs don't want to hire
Yeah,
people. So what was that like for you?
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's a particular job, I won't just name them outright, because they actually, I feel like interview wise, they gave me a good choice. I always said I'd kill an interview until you let technology come in. And they get in front of my background, I'm like, oh, I can't kill that part. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I got out. You know, the one thing I guess that that's helped me is that I was always pretty much a self-starter, and people were willing to help me. So I got out. I started I did lawn. I would mow yards, I'd clean toilets, or do whatever it took just to pretty much get going. And my wife was patient with me, you know, while I was working 12-hour shifts 6-7 days a week. So but as far as finding jobs, you know, that kind of, I mean, we all know that there's jobs out there that, whether we want to see it or not, it wouldn't be enough income just to bring enough in. So it definitely was a limit to me being able to get good jobs, decent lasting jobs, you know, quality jobs, I would say, you know, something that I could do for a lifetime and pass on, you know, the knowledge and skill set. So while I was in prison, I was able to acquire a bunch of hand skill sets. So I got out, I was a farrier, you know, I would shoot horses. I had like 5 different jobs, the main job being the father. So the one job, the father job, I didn't get any monetary benefits from at all.
Whoa. Wait a minute. I got to stop you. Right there. Did you just say, you know, because Ashley and I, we do these mentoring telethons, okay? And don't lose your train of thought, please. I apologize, but I had to stop on that one. You know,
it's lost.
Yeah, we do these mentoring telethons. And 80% of those that sign up to be a mentor are female. No offense, Ashley. No offense to the women. But trying to get a male role model out there is the most difficult thing. And so when you just said the most important thing to you without any prompting was my children.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, God, you know, but how do we get the men? You know, I'm going to try to throw you off on another tangent. So, but we've got to work on the men. I'm just going to go say that. We got to work on the men to get involved in the lives of these children here in this city.
Are you doing anything now, Lonnie, to try to, you know, give back to the community or anything like that?
Yeah, you know, honestly, I just say I used to, I can't remember who I shared it with, but I was for a time, because, you know, it was so impertinent for me. When I was growing up, people did take time, and I can't imagine what type of goals and dreams they set aside just to take me to a baseball game, a Travelers game. So, you know, actually, I always say that seed was planted in me, and I always felt the need to give back for so long, and I felt so guilty, and I just felt like God was saying, well, hey, start with your family and learn, because one of the biggest establishments we didn't have growing up in my house was a family. There was no father figure, you know. So and I think a lot of the mentoring starts there. And, you know, just from my point of view, a lot of the brokenness we see now is because of the absence of fathers, whether they understand the true role or the true identity, to go back to compare with what Robert said, the true identity of what it really means to be a man. So I do it, I say, on a case by case. There's no institution or entity that I'm just following and I help. But if I ever come across, you know, I leave my life open. I try to leave it as open book. So I've worked with so many countless people coming through the system, just started through the system. When I first got out, I was able to go back into before I got busy working, I was able to go back into whatever systems, you know, like I know at Cabot, I spoke to a group of adolescent teens up there that were, you know, prison, work with the parole board on a few issues, but I just nothing over time as far as on the day-to-day structure, you know, help. But I can't tell you the countless times I come through, you know, just to smile to somebody, a word of encouragement or uplifting, or just whatever opportunity I get to find, I try to do it.
Yeah. You know, we've probably got about 3, maybe 4 minutes here. Lonnie, what are you doing now? You know, I'm so proud of you. You know, God has given me the opportunity to be in your life and you be in my life now, and even greater. And so I'm thankful for that, because I'm learning things from you as far as perseverance and overcoming hurdles. So tell us what are you doing now?
Now, I guess as far as from a career standpoint, like I said, I got out and I started to do failure. And every bit of money I could make that didn't go to food or bills, I've pretty much been saving to start a trucking company. So now I'm probably on the cusp, on the edge of my seat of being able to purchase and lease. I do have my LLC, for the particular business. And I mean, just the mobile detailing, it skyrocketed. I had a real good friend to bring me in on it, that pressure washing, that my landscape, and I was a one-man team, so I hadn't quite took over Central Arkansas with that yet. So, but the trucking business that's able that I'm finna start, I mean, I'm excited about it. A little nervous at times because I can't control a lot of it, so the numbers, but I'm excited to learn. I'm actually enrolled and participating in the small business and technology department with ULR, just for whatever growth I can get. So it's a lot. I got quite a bit going on. So, and I'm probably working off like 3 to 4 hours of sleep
You mentioned
a night on average.
You mentioned earlier, like getting trades. Do you think if maybe some type of schooling or to get these trades were allowed or offered in some of these communities, that maybe things would change?
Well, honestly, I think to me, it's probably the biggest, if not the single most thing that probably needs to happen. We know it won't be overnight, but just from the background and just to kind of rush through it briefly, that when I was in prison, I was pretty much the only, like there was a color difference as far as who had the trades and who didn't. So the jobs I was allowed to get in, my personality and pretty much, character allowed people, I was a lot more susceptible to get the trade. And so I was able to come out with some, but I look back at my peers and there was so many of us who couldn't, like Gigi took me to the deer woods. I could actually get away from the problem. I learned to weld. There were so many trades at carpentry that I learned that I realized it's the lack of in our communities, pretty much that are predominant with the violence. So I actually think it's pivotal because it gives you a way to make it more than just the way you see anyhow.
Yeah. So I'm looking at some of the comments. A lot of people are just commenting on our Facebook pages right now, on the Fox 16 and KRK Facebook page. A lot of people saying, we have to have love and Jesus is the solution. So it's not really many questions, but just pretty much some of the things we've been saying here. So, Robert, anything else
Yeah, I first, thank you for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I see a young man that has totally given his life to loving others, and so I'm proud of you. But if there's one thing if there's one last parting gift, if I may, that you could give to us that would help somebody out there, what would that be?
Well, I guess in just a response, and it's never to put down, I guess, anybody's idea to the solution at all. I mean, I really do believe from a spiritual standpoint, yes, Jesus is the way, but I don't think Jesus, he didn't particularly exclude the fact that, day-to-day living, the model, not as an institution, but as a model, as who you were. And it took those people to me that can't recall Greg ever being, just overly religious, but I learned love. I knew the concept, because of that. So, and my biggest parting gift, is that I was able to, I just felt like the biggest gift I felt God gave me was the gift to understand. Sometimes it does take most of the time, it takes understanding that position, not from a judgmental standpoint, or even just trying to offer the solutions, just right. Sometimes it takes a lot to listen, to just hear the hurts, hear the problems, because of as much as we do have the answer, when the child goes to the house, they're by themselves. When the lights are off, they're by themselves. When there are no media coverage, they're by themselves. So, help a lot of times may feel just hopeless to them. And they're like, well, you're only here for a time being, or when the situation causes, if there's a crime, you're here, or new laws come out. So the patience and understanding is key to going a long way. Ideologies won't change overnight. So my Cowboys ain't won a Super Bowl in 20 years. That hadn't changed. So
that is true, and I don't know if they'll win one anytime soon, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh no.
Sorry, I know. All right. Well, Lonnie, we definitely appreciate you coming on here and just sharing your story. I hope that somebody saw it out there and maybe, would be interested in turning their lives around as well. And if there's somebody out there, you are watching this and want to get in contact with Lonnie, contact us here and we can get you in contact with him if you need, help getting onto the right path, or if you just need that inspiration. I'm sure, Lonnie, you'll be willing to be inspiration to some young man out there who's looking for it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm right 80% of the times.
Hey, that's what matters, right? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lonnie.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Lonnie. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right. So, Robert, any
well,
final words?
Well, I think we're working on some really cool solutions right now for people to get involved in. It's victory over violence is great, but if we've got to have some places where individuals can really sink their teeth into and make a sustainable difference. So I know that you and myself and Ernie and several others are working on that right now.
Yep.
So I want to tell all of those that are part of Victory Over Violence and keep praying for us. But solutions-oriented, sustainable activities are coming soon for you.
Yes.
So we want you involved with us.
Yep, that's what we're looking for, because we were talking earlier this week, we have to find solutions. Like, we can't just, it's great that we've had this conversation today, and hopefully it inspires people, and once people, people want to become mentors based off of it, but we do want to find those concrete solutions. So we'll be sharing some of those with you guys in the future.
Yes.
Perfect.
So, hey, Ashley.
Yes.
Great day, man. Great day, sis. Appreciate you very much.
Yes,
so,
thank you so much, too. And we will see you guys all next time.
Yep.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care.